There's a certain irony in how we humans operate. We go through life believing we're faulty devices that require endless maintenance. We lug around this massive arsenal of self-help tools, endlessly fiddling with our inner workings, tweaking here, patching there, like cars fresh from the factory with faulty components. But suppose I revealed that this whole pursuit, this vast self-repair sector, rests on a core misconception. What if the notion that you're something to repair is the real issue at hand? Picture this, a wave in the sea gaining self-awareness and proclaiming, "Shh," quote. How ridiculous would that sound? The wave is flawless just as it exists. It doesn't need to amp up its waveliness. It's simply the sea manifesting in wavy motion. Yet in our personal saga, we've bought into this very nonsense. We've been fed a narrative, right? Here's how it unfolds. You're inherently defective. You've got challenges to resolve, concerns to tackle, traits to refine. And with enough effort, the perfect approach, the ideal guide, or the suitable strategy, you'll mend yourself and evolve into the version of you that's expected. This tale permeates everything, so embedded in our societal norms that we seldom challenge it. We just embrace being perpetual projects, rough sketches awaiting polish into masterpieces. But imagine if this narrative isn't merely incorrect, but completely inverted. Allow me to share a notion that could ruffle feathers in the self-enhancement world. You've never been damaged. You've never been unfinished. You've never been a puzzle demanding a solution. The sole concept requiring adjustment is the belief that you're in need of repair. Consider it like this. When you gaze at a tree, do you think, quote, one? Absolutely not. The tree stands as a wonder precisely in its current state. It isn't striving to transform into anything beyond its innate essence. It expands, adapts, interacts with its surroundings, yet it doesn't convene daily self-assessments to plot its growth objectives. We people, though, we're a different breed. We've cultivated this odd ability to detach from ourselves, turning into our harshest reviewers, our task overseers, our own overhaul teams. We peer into the glass and spot not a wondrous embodiment of vitality, but a project begging for upgrades. Don't get me wrong, I'm not dismissing the value in acquiring knowledge, evolving, or adapting. Even a tree acquires wisdom. It discerns the direction to stretch toward sunlight, the need to burrow roots further, the way to endure gales. But the tree doesn't berate itself for lacking height or fret over uneven bark. It merely reacts instinctively to life's offerings. The key distinction? The tree relies on its inherent design. We've been conditioned to doubt ours. We've absorbed the lesson that our gut reactions are dubious, our unfiltered replies likely erroneous, that without oversight we'd inevitably botch everything. Thus, we construct this inner overseer, this perpetual watchdog, scrutinizing our every move and appraising it. Am I achieving sufficiently? Am I reacting aptly? Am I advancing at the expected pace? Haven't I progressed more by this point? It's draining, isn't it? Like harboring a nitpicking boss in your mind, jotting critiques of your efforts, and invariably deeming you deficient. Yet here's the truth of the matter. That overseer, that internal fault-finder, that insistent voice urging non-stop enhancement, it's not truly you. It's an assortment of echoes from bygone days, verdicts you've taken in, benchmarks you've adopted from family, educators, community, and traditions. You've incorporated an entire panel of arbiters, and now they're dictating your path, leaving you feeling endlessly insufficient, eternally lagging in your very being. But who notices this panel? Who perceives these ruminations, these critiques, these relentless assessments? Something within you observes the entire spectacle without getting entangled. that something is your true essence. You're not the self-reflections swirling around. You're not the critiques, the appraisals, the unending narration. You're the consciousness where all this arises and fades, much like atmospheric shifts across the heavens. The sky never suffers harm from the tempests that pass through. Clouds gather and dissipate, yet the sky endures expansive and unobstructed. Similarly, notions of your shortcomings arise and evolve, yet your core essence stays intact. You could wonder about this or perhaps not even respond, but yes, I certainly face issues. I mess up plenty. There are aspects of myself I'd prefer to alter, naturally. Yet here's the key insight. You can adjust, acquire fresh skills, and expand in novel ways without embracing the idea that you're inherently flawed. Observe a kid figuring out how to walk. They tumble repeatedly. Do they spin a tale of being flawed stumblers? Do they build an inferiority complex around their movement flaws? Nope. They just rise and attempt it once more. Not out of a belief in their brokenness, but because strolling seems enjoyable. The growth unfolds organically, with joy, free from the burden of self-condemnation and the stress of self-betterment that we've mastered as grown-ups. You know, there exist two entirely distinct paths to embracing transformation. One starts from the premise that you're damaged and require repair. The other springs from acknowledging that you're already complete and evolving instinctively. The initial path resembles a technician tinkering with a malfunctioning motor, perpetually scanning for flaws, elements demanding fixes, parts that aren't operating correctly. The alternative is akin to a cultivator nurturing a seedling, offering ideal surroundings, and relying on the innate smarts of development. The technician forever battles imperfections. The cultivator partners with vitality. The majority of our self-improvement strategies are mechanical in nature. We handle ourselves as devices needing superior coding, smoother software, enhanced components. We view our feelings as program errors, our routines as coding defects, our traits as interfaces requiring overhaul. But suppose you're not machinery after all. Suppose you're more akin to a garden, a vibrant ecosystem with its own insight into expansion. When you rely on this inherent wisdom, something extraordinary occurs. You cease clashing with your inner self and begin aligning with it, rather than shoving yourself into a rigid template. You permit your distinct form to unfold. This doesn't imply becoming inert or halting education. It signifies acquiring knowledge like a stream navigates terrain, by adapting alongside it, not resisting. I realize some of you may be pondering this. It appears like rationalizing average performance. If I avoid pressuring myself to advance, won't I merely plateau? Doesn't this outlook foster laziness? Yet in reality, it's the reverse. When you quit expending effort battling your own nature, when you end the relentless inner critique and upgrade pressure, you unleash vast reserves of vitality for true existence. Consider the sheer mental and emotional resources you devote daily to assessing your worth, fretting over proper living, measuring against peers, establishing targets, then punishing yourself for slow progress. Picture redirecting all that vigor toward fully engaging with your real moments, toward innovating in response to life's offerings, toward relishing the sheer act of existing. Someone aware of their inherent wholeness skips the self-assault. They direct their drive toward articulation, innovation, connections, exploration. They engage life playfully rather than laboring on personal tweaks. Allow me to share a metaphor. How much focus remains for truly hearing the tune? How much awareness is open for sensing the piano keys beneath your hands, for allowing the harmony to flow within? But should you approach the instrument aware that you needn't become anything beyond your present state, should you perform not to mend your flaws, but to enable sound to arise through you, then something lovely might surface. You could produce what folks might label errors. Yet if you're not trapped by the notion of errors, those surprising notes could turn into the most captivating sections of your composition. This captures my point about ceasing the self-repair attempts. It's not regarding abandoning all striving or abandoning progress and maturation. It's about shifting your stance toward the entire endeavor. Rather than tackling existence as a puzzle to unravel, you treat it as an enigma to experience. Rather than viewing yourself as a task to finish, you see yourself as a continual manifestation of vitality. And vitality isn't a riddle. Vitality is an engagement. You don't resolve it. You join in. You move with it. You frolic within it. Now, here's an element that could catch you off guard. When you halt the self-correction push, you'll frequently discover that the elements you deemed in need of mending sort themselves out instinctively. It's similar to the ancient proverb on clarifying murky liquid by granting it stillness. When you cease agitating the sediment of inner reproach and enhancement tension, the sensations we impose on ourselves, when you stop stirring up the mud of self-criticism and improvement anxiety, the liquid of your innate lucidity starts to calm. This transpires because much of what we perceive as flaws in ourselves, often stems from our attempts to repair things that weren't damaged to begin with. Take anxiety, for instance. You could believe it's a major issue, so you experiment with different methods to overcome it. You dissect it, resist it, steer clear of triggers, enroll in workshops on handling it. Yet these very actions frequently amplify the anxiety. Worry over the anxiety itself, concern that you're not conquering it quickly enough. But imagine if occasional anxious feelings are perfectly normal. What if anxiety is merely one of countless emotions drifting across the landscape of human awareness, much like clouds gliding across the heavens? Once you cease treating anxiety as a puzzle demanding a solution, once you drop the extra layer of narrative, quote, on the sensation alone, it tends to fade away on its own, or at least grow far easier to handle. The pattern holds for general unease, too. Society has drilled into us the notion that we must maintain a steady state of joy, assurance, serenity, and efficiency. But that's akin to demanding perpetual sunshine at a balmy 75 degrees. Feelings are the climate of the mind, at times turbulent, at times tranquil, sometimes overcast, other times bright. This isn't a glitch in your emotional machinery, it's simply how emotions operate. Grasping this allows you to quit micromanaging your inner climate and instead adapt wisely to whatever weather rolls in. The idea extends to personal qualities we've been conditioned to view as defects. Perhaps you're inherently reserved in a society that idolizes outgoingness, or a visionary in a realm that prizes non-stop hustle, or empathetic in a setting that prizes grit. Rather than striving to overhaul these traits, why not embrace them as vital pieces of your distinct role in the world? Why not quit atoning for your essence and begin honoring it? An oak doesn't aspire to mimic a pine. A stream doesn't regret its fluidity over solidity. They just embody their essence wholly and gracefully. When you embrace your core this deeply, a remarkable shift occurs. You cease squandering vitality on impersonation, and that freed-up energy fuels an authentic, radiant expression of self. Of course, this isn't about shunning skill-building or expansion, but such pursuits arise from delight and intrigue, not from feelings of deficiency. You evolve because expansion feels rewarding, not because you're defective. It's the gap between picking up painting out of passion for hues and shapes versus doing so to force more inventiveness. The former is pure enjoyment. The latter is self-repair drudgery. Consider kids once more. They don't declare, "I must cultivate my creativity." They just dive into fantasy. They don't outline objectives for greater whimsy. They just frolic. The innate wisdom of development manages it all, free from the burden of self-betterment dogma. Yet at some point, we came to doubt this inherent savvy. We absorbed lessons that outsiders, experts, norms must dictate our lifestyles, sentiments, identities. We absorbed those voices, spawning an internal empire of oversight. We've got divisions for self-judgment, panels for target setting, squads for routine tweaks. Our psyche has morphed into a business rife with evaluations and upgrade schemes. But beneath this administrative tangle, your true essence endures. It hasn't vanished. It's been quietly anticipating your realization that breakage was never the issue. This primal self isn't a goal to chase or attain. It's the you that emerges when you release all pretenses. It's the residue after shedding tales of your shortcomings, and that residue is profoundly remarkable, not in a flashy or elite way, but in its raw genuineness, vitality, and immediacy. Here's a fascinating irony. The harder you push for self-enhancement, the more you entrench the belief in your need for it. Yet the instant you see you were never fractured, true progress unfolds organically, smoothly, sans the tension and toil. It's like contrasting a seedling stretching toward sunlight on its own versus one yanked and nudged every which way to hasten growth. Which do you suppose thrives? When you rely on your innate wiring, when you end the internal battles, when you affirm your flawless embodiment of existence, then blossoming occurs just as petals unfurl in their perfect rhythm, effortless and lovely. This isn't about settling into inertia. It's about faith. Faith in the smarts that pulse your heartbeat sans deliberate thought, that lengthens your locks, that mends your scrapes, that imagine the very same force that crafts vast universes and guides the journeys of flocks across the skies. That's the essence within you. Do you truly believe it requires your worried oversight to function at its best? Consider this as my gentle suggestion. Why not try a little test? Suppose for just 24 hours you let go of the urge to mend what's, quote, for with you. What if you greeted that day not like a puzzle demanding resolution, but as a present to embrace? What if you encountered your feelings without the impulse to alter them? What if you observed your mind's wanderings without labeling them good or bad? What if you navigated your daily tasks without endlessly critiquing how well you're doing? What if you extended to yourself the same compassion, forbearance, understanding, and lightheartedness you'd offer a close companion? The results might astonish you. You could uncover that, free from the relentless drive to better yourself, a sense of ease starts to emerge on its own. In that calm, your true nature begins to emerge brightly. You may even realize how truly remarkable you are, right here and now. Not flawless without any potential to evolve, but whole as a full embodiment of existence in the present. From this awareness, any shifts that feel right will unfold smoothly and organically without pushing or resistance. Picture a stream etching deep valleys, not by straining, but via steady, soft persistence. This is the profound truth the world of personal development keeps under wraps. You've never been damaged. There's no repair needed. You're inherently intact, fully realized, and utterly sufficient. The sole misconception calling for correction is the one insisting you must be corrected. And the delightful twist? You can't dispel that notion by piling on more corrections. Instead, you pierce it like unraveling the sleight of hand in an illusion once you grasp its mechanics. That illusion? The false notion that you're detached from the flow of existence, that you're a glitch existence, must resolve. Yet you're woven right into existence itself, your existence manifesting in a human shape. And existence isn't a flaw, it's a joyous unfolding, so cease the efforts to overhaul yourself. Nothing's amiss in you that isn't shared by all humanity, and nothing's amiss in humanity at large. We're merely ripples across a single vast sea. Everyone distinct, everyone ideal, everyone fleeting, everyone an essential thread in the grand, wondrous rhythm. Once this sinks in, not merely as a concept, but as a deeply felt truth, you can at last settle into your genuine self. And that self is far more exquisite than the version you imagine you ought to be. The ripple doesn't strive to mirror the sea more closely. The ripple is the sea delighting in its wavy guise. Likewise, you needn't aspire to embody existence more fully. You are existence reveling in your unique form. That revelry, that interplay, that sway, it's not something to amend. It's the very essence of it all.